clicked play, and the scene remained as is for a while until I came out of the jarred iron door. I just passed through the iron door like a ghost and vanished out of the frame. Dad clicked pause. He took a deep breath. Daddy looked down and massaged his eyeballs with his bony fingers. He sighed. He stuck his hands between his legs, and he broke. He broke, my dad, and my dad breaks for a fraction of a moment only. He can't afford to break down. It was but a little crack, an aesthetic curiosity on a great wall that has warded off invaders for centuries and will for a few more. It was a little hiccup of loss, a hole in Daddy's stomach, another among a throng of other ulcers. It was intense. And it was an enraged sadness. It was immense. The whole balance of the room was thrown off. But it was brief. Composure regained. He took a deep breath. He did not wipe the tears that were forming in the corner of his eyes. He just stood there and dried them with the sole power of his hatred. So I woke up after a while, and the first thing I felt was as if there was a refrigerator on my chest. The atmosphere around me was sweaty and damp and smelly, and there was a faint sound of wind, or rather windy howling outside. I take a deep, sharp breath because I can barely breathe, and I open my eyes, and once I did, I instantly wish I hadn't. We were in some kind of tent, and the heat was suffocating. It was claustrophobia incarnate, 6 people staring at you with murderous intent, stuck to you so close you could smell each person's body odor, all crowded in a little tent, and the smell, oh my God, the smell. I looked down, and the earth was breathing. I looked closely, and I could see the very grains of black sand underneath us moving like a hungry stomach. Maggots digging their way up and stopping short, no doubt because the tent was suffocating, just bubbling a centimeter beneath the surface. The squad of 5 who kidnapped me were staring at me. The closest one to me had an eye missing, and there were a few insects inside the socket of his eye, making a war with other insects in the battlefield of his brain matter. "Sah Abu Ghalib," he said with a smile. A bug went out of his eye socket as he said that, probably going, "Oh really, why no?" Alhamdulillah, Salama, Ustaz Haidar. I was terrified. The muffled noise coming from outside was violently whistling and shaking the whole tent as if the wailing wanted to come inside. The violence of the sound was undeniable, but it was hard to describe it or know what it was. The closest thing I could have imagined at the time was that it was the sound of 1,000 dinosaurs being dumped slowly in acid on a freakishly windy day. And even though I was somewhere no sane man would want to be, somewhere where any man would wish he were absolutely anywhere but where I was, I knew deep inside that outside is way worse. I knew that I was here with very dangerous people in unsettling proximity, but that what was outside was something no one in that tent could handle. That's why they were hiding in here. Haidar Rasuli. Eh? Ibn al-Imam Muhammad Rasuli. Ibn. And he spoke no more, and the heat was unbearable, and the breathing was 10 times worse. Abu Ghalib was wearing his keffiyeh, and he was hiding all of his face except his eyes like a desert Tuareg. He was frowning a frown which I can only call as murderous. His black eyes were surrounded by a thick, dark circle, as if he hadn't slept for years. Abu Ghalib just kept staring. Abu Ghalib wasn't after impressing me. There was nothing but hate in those black, black eyes. Shulosba, he said calmly. La, la, la. I tried to kick. I flailed my arms around, and my heart sank when they got a good hold of my hand. This can't be happening. There must be something I can do. There must be something I can say. Tears jerked off uncontrollably as I kept repeating, la, 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 and pulling at my hands. I could feel the glacial hands of the Palestinians holding me tight and separating the fingers of my right hand, taking time to choose which finger had to go. I could hear the knife coming out of its holster. No, 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 no. I am feeling the knife on my hand. I am panting uncontrollably. The man holding my torso pulls me by the hair and he whispers in my ear, Matatalla. No, 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 I have to, because this can't be happening. But it is, it is! I turned my head away and it took a mere second. A simple and a shtuk. And I screamed at the thought of it. It was not pain. There was no pain. It was the realization that this was actually happening to me. That I actually had now 9 fingers. I screamed and it started with an ah and morphed slowly into a ha 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 ha. I started crying like a little girl, so I was slapped across the face so violently, I immediately snapped out of it. Abu Ghalib عم يحكيك يا خرا. هيدي للجدو, said Abu Ghalib while showing me my own finger. I started panting like a woman whose water just broke. اسمعني منيح. أو منروح أصبع غيره. مين بعتك؟ لبدوك. لأي غرض؟ لما نعمل اجتماع لحل سلمي. There was silence. كذاب! Screamed one of them. السا بيحكي خلينا نروح أصبع غيره, said one of the men impatiently. حل سلمي؟ احنا هبلان ما هيك؟ Screamed at me another. Shh! Abu Ghalib ordered. Hal Silmi? He asked. I was silent. حكي يا ابراهيم. And I was slapped across the face. بس غازي. استاذ حيدر بتمنى تشوف وجهة نظري وتشوف الأمور من منظاري وتفهمني لما يكون عندي شك إنه اللبنانية ما عم بيزبطوا شي خبرية جديدة لعالمنا الفلسطينية. صرنا عم ننتك من أول ما جينا لعندكم يا جيران, يعني يا إخواتنا. عملتونا مثل الصراصير. مين حكيت؟ الأبدوار. الأبدوار بده سلام. I was silent. الأبدوار بده سلام! He screamed again in my face. He unbuttoned his shirt and his whole guts came out, dangling in front of me. The whole company of maggots went out for fresh air, but the poisoned atmosphere of the tent made them all go back again. A few flies flew around the orbit that his guts made, a constellation of rot. I puked in my mouth, and then I puked some more, and it went all down my clothes. I wiped the vomit around my mouth and I started kicking his guts, which were by now spilling next to my legs, and his guts had a life of their own, crawling slowly like eyeless snake-like moles. I was a mess. This was no way to deal with this.